In the ancient village of Garki, tradition reigned supreme. A lush, peaceful land surrounded by hills and flowing rivers, Garki was known not just for its natural beauty but also for its strict customs. Among these customs, the reverence for virginity stood paramount. Virginity was seen not only as a personal virtue but as a sacred duty to the gods of the land. For centuries, this belief was embedded in the village's culture, upheld by both men and women with unwavering seriousness. Whenever a young maiden reached the age of marriage, her purity was the first question on the lips of potential suitors. If a maiden was not found to be a virgin on her wedding night, the consequences were dire, not just for her but for her entire family. They would be banished from the village, forced to wander the forests and unknown lands, living as outcasts. It was said that such shame was not only social but spiritual, bringing the wrath of the gods upon any household that dishonored the custom. As a result, families guarded their daughters' purity with fierce determination, and maidens carried the weight of their family's honor on their shoulders. In the heart of Garki, there lived a maiden whose beauty and character made her the pride of the village. Her name was Tonia. She was not just beautiful, she was enchanting, with smooth ebony skin that glowed in the sunlight, large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, and a smile that could melt the hardest of hearts. Tonia was more than her beauty. She was hardworking, humble, and kind. Her character was as radiant as her appearance, making her beloved by many. But Tonia's life was not without its struggles. When she was a little girl, her mother passed away, leaving her heartbroken and vulnerable. Her father, a farmer named Obiora, was a kind man but one overwhelmed by grief and the responsibilities of raising a child alone. In his desperation for companionship and support, he remarried a woman named Patience. At first, it seemed like Patience would bring stability to their home, but as time passed, it became clear that she saw Tonia not as a daughter but as a rival. Patience had two daughters of her own, Amara and Chidinma. Though they were fair in their own way, their beauty paled in comparison to Tonia's, and their characters were far less admirable. While Tonia worked tirelessly in the fields and around the house, her stepsisters spent their days gossiping and lazing around. Despite this, it was Tonia who caught the attention of the noblemen of Garki. Suitors came from far and wide to seek Tonia's hand in marriage. From the wealthiest farmers to the bravest hunters, they all flocked to Obiora's house, hoping to win Tonia's favor. Each time a suitor arrived, Patience's jealousy burned brighter. None of these men came for her daughters. None of them even noticed Amara or Chidinma when Tonia was near. It was always Tonia they wanted, Tonia they praised, and Tonia they dreamed of marrying. This unending stream of attention drove Patience to the brink. Her envy turned into hatred, and soon, her hatred transformed into cruelty. She began to maltreat Tonia in every way possible. She made her wake up before dawn to fetch water from the farthest stream, carry heavy bundles of firewood, and work endlessly in the fields under the scorching sun. She would give Tonia the smallest portions of food and the hardest chores, all while pampering her own daughters. But no matter how much Patience tried to break her spirit, Tonia endured with quiet dignity. She never complained, never retaliated, and never lost her kindness. One fateful evening, as Patience sat brooding over Tonia's growing popularity, a wicked plan began to take shape in her mind. If Tonia could be disgraced, she thought, her beauty and character would mean nothing. The suitors would vanish, and Tonia would be cast out of Garki in shame. But how? Patience pondered for days until she devised a sinister scheme. She decided to hire a group of hoodlums to attack Tonia and take away the one thing that gave her value in the eyes of the village: her virginity. With Tonia defiled, the suitors would stop coming, and Patience could watch her rivals suffer in disgrace. Patience called on a man named Udo, a known troublemaker in the village. He and his band of misfits often lurked in the shadows, carrying out dirty deeds for a price. She offered him money and promised more once the job was done. "You must be careful," she warned. "No one must know about this. Strike when she's alone, and make sure no one sees you." Udo agreed, greed gleaming in his eyes. A date and place were set. Tonia would be ambushed on her way back from the market one evening. Patience felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, imagining Tonia's fall from grace. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. On the day of the planned attack, Tonia was running late at the market. She lingered to help an elderly woman carry her basket of goods, unaware of the trap awaiting her. Meanwhile, Amara, growing suspicious of her mother's secretive behavior, had followed her to the edge of the forest earlier that day. Overhearing bits and pieces of the conversation with Udo, Amara pieced together enough to understand that something terrible was being planned for Tonia. Jealousy burned in Amara's heart too, but not enough to wish such a cruel fate on her stepsister. That evening, when she saw Udo and his men waiting in the shadows, she decided to intervene. Disguising herself in one of Tonia's shawls, she approached them, thinking she could distract them long enough for Tonia to escape. But in the dim light of dusk, Udo and his men mistook Amara for Tonia. Before she could explain, they seized her and committed the very act Patience had planned for Tonia. When the terrible truth came to light the next day, chaos erupted in the household. Amara was inconsolable, and Patience was horrified. Her own plan had backfired in the worst possible way. She had not only failed to destroy Tonia but had also brought shame upon her own daughter. Word spread quickly through the village, and the elders summoned Patience and her family to explain themselves. Despite her suffering, Tonia chose not to expose her stepmother's involvement. She pitied Amara and knew that revealing the truth would destroy their family completely. However, the gods of Garki had their own way of ensuring justice. That very night, a terrible storm descended upon the village, and the family's house was struck by lightning, burning it to the ground. The elders saw this as a sign of the gods' displeasure and banished Patience and her daughters from Garki. Tonia remained in the village, where she was celebrated not just for her beauty but for her strength and compassion. Noblemen continued to seek her hand, but Tonia chose to wait, knowing that her worth was not defined by the customs of her people but by her own heart. The storm that destroyed Patience's home left a mark on the hearts of the villagers. Many saw it as a divine warning from the gods, a reminder of their disdain for treachery and malice. For Tonia, the storm symbolized a turning point, a chance to rebuild her life free from the shadow of her stepmother's cruelty. With her father by her side, she set out to heal from the scars of her past and embrace a brighter future. Though the village elders had banished Patience and her daughters, the damage they had inflicted lingered in whispers and rumors. People spoke in hushed tones about the wickedness of the stepmother and the shame that befell her daughter. Yet, amidst the gossip, Tonia's name shone like a beacon. Her resilience, humility, and grace in the face of adversity elevated her in the eyes of the community. She was no longer just the beautiful maiden of Garki. She was a symbol of virtue and strength. Tonia chose to stay in her father's modest home, continuing the simple life she had always known. She worked diligently in the fields, harvested crops, and tended to the animals. Her laughter began to return, soft and melodic, as she found solace in the everyday rhythms of life. The children of the village adored her, often following her to the stream and begging for her stories. She became a mentor to the younger maidens, teaching them the values of kindness, diligence, and self-worth. One of Tonia's favorite places was the forest on the edge of the village. She would often retreat there to gather her thoughts and pray to the gods for guidance. It was a sacred space, where sunlight filtered through the tall trees, and the air was filled with the songs of birds. Here, Tonia found peace and reconnected with the spirit of her late mother, imagining her presence in the gentle rustle of the leaves. Months turned into years, and though suitors continued to visit Obiora's home, Tonia did not rush into marriage. She had learned from her experiences that not all attention was genuine and that the heart needed time to find its true match. Among the many men who sought her hand was a quiet, unassuming hunter named Adaku. Adaku was not wealthy like the other suitors, nor did he boast of great conquests. He was a man of simple pleasures, an expert tracker and provider, known for his honesty and generosity. While others came with gifts of gold and promises of grand feasts, Adaku arrived with baskets of freshly hunted game, wild honey, and herbs from the forest. Unlike the others, Adaku did not attempt to charm Tonia with grand gestures or flattery. Instead, he spoke to her as an equal, asking about her life and her dreams. He admired her not just for her beauty but for her courage and wisdom. Over time, Tonia grew fond of his quiet strength and genuine kindness. One evening, Adaku came to visit Obiora, bringing a bundle of rare spices and a beautifully carved wooden comb for Tonia. As they sat under the moonlight, Adaku shared stories of his childhood, his adventures in the forest, and his deep respect for the gods. Tonia listened intently, her heart warming to his sincerity. It was then that Adaku made his intentions clear. "I seek your hand not because of your beauty, though it is unmatched, but because of the purity of your soul," he said. "You are like the first light of dawn, Tonia, bringing hope and warmth to all who know you. I promise to cherish you and build a life with you that honors your strength and grace." Moved by his words, Tonia accepted his proposal, and the village erupted in celebration. Atiku's sincerity and humility had won their hearts, and the match was seen as a blessing from the gods. The wedding was a grand affair, celebrated with dances, feasts, and songs that echoed through the hills of Garki. The entire village gathered to witness the union of Tonia and Atiku. The elders blessed the couple, and the maidens adorned Tonia with beads and fine garments. She looked radiant, not just because of her beauty but because of the happiness that shone in her eyes. On the wedding night, as tradition dictated, the village elders waited for Atiku to confirm Tonia's purity. When he emerged with a proud smile and the customary white cloth, the elders rejoiced, and the celebrations resumed. Tonia's honor was preserved, and her marriage to Atiku became a story told for generations. Tonia and Atiku's life together was simple yet fulfilling. They built their home on the outskirts of the village, near the forest that Tonia loved so much. Together, they farmed the land, hunted game, and raised livestock. Their home became a haven of warmth and hospitality, where travelers and villagers alike were always welcome. In time, Tonia bore Atiku 2 children, a son named Kalechi and a daughter named Neka. She poured all her love into raising them, teaching them the values she held dear. Kalechi grew to be strong and brave like his father, while Neka inherited her mother's beauty and kindness. The family's happiness was evident in everything they did. On market days, they could be seen laughing together as they sold their goods. During festivals, Atiku and Tonia danced with the energy of 2 people deeply in love. Their bond was unshakable, built on mutual respect and unwavering support. As the years passed, Tonia's story became part of the fabric of Garki's history. Her trials and triumphs were recounted by the village griots, who wove her life into songs and tales for future generations. Young maidens looked to her as a role model, aspiring to emulate her strength and character. The gods, it seemed, smiled upon Tonia and her family. Their crops flourished, their herds multiplied, and their home was filled with laughter and love. Even in her later years, Tonia remained a guiding light in the village, offering wisdom and comfort to those who sought it. When Tonia eventually passed away, surrounded by her loved ones, the entire village mourned. Her life had been a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of kindness. The elders declared a day of remembrance in her honor, ensuring that her legacy would endure for all time. And so the tale of Tonia, the Maiden of Garki, lived on, a story of beauty, courage, and the enduring triumph of good over evil.